all, and welcome to this, whatever the hell this is. Because for reasons that are known only to eldritch midnight forces that giggle and chatter in dark places and nip at sleeping babies, we are having another What Now live stream. And so far as I can tell, it's only me here. But that's okay. I've got tea, I've got Fernando, so I'm willing to have a small schizophrenic episode all by myself in these the wee small hours of the 11th of April. And oh, sweet mercy, and Dal, always good to see you. Although it would be really nice, it would be spectacularly pleasant if any of you fine ladies, either of you fine ladies, in fact, could let me know if you can hear me. And oh, well, isn't that sinister as all fuck? Two people at the exact same moment saying, "You are not alone." Good evening, Aphrodite, or for the sake of this evening's entertainment, should I say boss? Lauren can hear me. Lauren, you can always hear me. It's good to know. It's spectacular to know. It's a tiny thing, but I am really wishing I wasn't so spectacularly short-sighted that I could take my glasses off and read these comments. But I'm going to have to make do with this wretched rectangle of reflection. I do apologize that I've had to forego my usual mood lighting this evening, but after I realized that the lamplight is what was screwing up my picture last time, at least I think it is. It looks okay here. How's my picture looking to you fine folk? And also, how the devil are we? Let me know how you are doing before I get on with this evening's lineup, because do we have a show for you? That's a very, very serious question, do we? Because I do not know. I would very, very much like to find out. So, we are time traveling again. Oh, Dal, you know how to keep my spirits up. Spicy. Oh, wait, I forgot this last time. I can do this. There we are. What is spicy? Hey, I've got a curry going for tomorrow. I'm absolutely thrilled. You've got to cook them like that bloody ages to get them right. Nice lamb jalfrezi. What better way to mark in Easter Saturday? XML, FML. Lauren, I'm not picking on you. It's just that I don't know how to turn them off from up there. There we go. So, it has been a week since our first attempt at live broadcasts, and I'm showing significantly more skin than I'm comfortable with there. Let's fix that. And, well, thank you very much. Since our first attempt at this sort of thing. And what has happened in that week? Well, I am utterly and completely inundated with goddamn plot bunnies. Now, my general idea is that chaotic ink goblins should eat plot bunnies, but at the moment they are breeding like, well, a cliche. What's this? Oh, that my real birthday is April the 11th, which I'm only saying it here. It's amazing, Dal, to consider that your planet of origin has a comparable year cycle to Earth. And I'm presuming you're using an approximate calendar. But maybe that's how you ended up here, because it's easier to track the days of the year. But yes, plot buddies. And it's proving to be an absolute goddamn... In fact, no, screw it. Fucking nightmare. Because I am inching slowly, dragging my way, naked up the mountainside, belly down, if you catch my meaning, across the rocks, to get at the final rewrite of my novel, The Dead Meat Sextet. What do we have here? Indeed it was, Aphrodite, many happy returns. Well, you never ask a Greek goddess her age, but on the anniversary of you climbing out of that clamshell, to have you here. And what a birthday present you gave me, huh? Make friends on the internet and they send you porn. What do we have? We eat plot buddies for breakfast. It's just Easter, so there's more than normal this time of year time to feast. Oh. With every passing day, Lauren, my heart grows a little larger for you. Seriously, stop it. I'm getting ever closer to myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction isn't caused by an enlarged heart, is it? What am I thinking of? Anyway. You have to sing for us the birthday ladies of April. Well, we will get to something rather like that. But first of all, can we just take a second to appreciate how you have to sing for us the birthday ladies of April sounds like a sort of Orphic challenge. This sounds like some sort of medieval fantasy encounter, and in order to pass to the next challenge, you must sing for us the birthday ladies of April. I'm very much into that. Dal, it is among the reasons I like you so much. I would never. It's absolutely fine. It is not a problem. It is not a problem. Oh, Hal, I haven't spoken to you in so long. How are you? It is. I shouldn't be so happy about this. Yes, I was right. It isn't. Sorry, I'm happy that I was wrong, but still. Cardiomyopathy, thank you very much. This is what happens when you have only a tangential medical education. My sister is an anatomist, so I only really pick these things up tangentially. It is bountiful, just this cornucopia of kink. Now there's a name for an online business, a cornucopia of kink. I don't want any money for it, just a name drop. Perhaps name a love aid after me and put this face on the box. Perfect birth control. But yes, dragging myself up the mountain trying to get this thing finished. And I've reached an absolute bastard of a stumbling block, which is there's one for those of you who were with us last week, which is all of you. You remember I talked about the 6 stories that interconnect. Meant to interconnect. They were arranged more like how an album is arranged. Every song may be different, but there's a greater mood and aesthetic that is built up out of them. Cutting them together is more like one of those big choral numbers on the West End or Broadway. And certain things are getting lost in it because I really wanted to push myself as one of my main characters. And we met Charlie last week. One of them, Dame Caroline. I'm having an issue with getting this right because it made perfect sense when it was a straight story, when it was just beginning, middle, and end. And I really fought hard for a character. I went straight out of my comfort zone because she's the POV character. Still third person, but she's the POV character. But I am, you may have noticed, neither female, 80 years old, or dying. And she is all 3 of those things. And the story is about she's an elderly actress and she's dying and she forms a friendship with a young person because they're on their way up and she's on her way out, and it's about this intergenerational relationship on the... I'm so sorry, I got totally distracted because my webcam is a mirror image. So doing this is very disconcerting, so I'm going to stop doing it. And I was trying to make it very heartfelt, very poignant, But it's also completely out of its mind and bonkers because there's psychedelic dream sequences and robots because it's me. But I think I got away with it. But now that I've had to separate it and rearrange it and put it against other things, I think I've lost something. And I rather think I'm going to have to put in scenes that I cut out. And the thing is, I cut them out for a reason, but to make them work. And anyway, this is what my week has been, and I'll come to my plot bunny problem in a moment. But oh, you folk are chatty. I like that. Your car was possessed earlier. Yes, yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah. I have powers. What can I say? Oh, did I tell you all that I'm writing a new version of The Wizard of Oz? I'm writing a film version. If anyone's interested in me telling you about that, I will. But I do sort of just wonder here, mixing Scarecrow and Tin Man versions. Yeah, there's a over here. There was a charity album written by two junior doctors. It was to raise money for cancer research, and it was medical versions of popular songs. And they did like this a medley one, and it was really dark humor too, as only doctors can do. People think that doctors are respectable people, and all the doctors I've met to get through the day, just to survive, have the darkest sense of humor, and that's why we love them so much. But it went something like, "I'd go jogging and I'd go rowing every day. You'd see me going to the park and to the gym. I'd go drinking in the pub and every evening I'd go clubbing if I only had some limbs. If I just sit and cry, a quadruple amputee. I just hang around all day and watch TV. But that's the life of quadriplegics." And it was wonderful. It was dark, and what have we here? I see I'm distracting myself. I do apologize, everybody. Everything should sing in a robot voice. Well, Dal, this is the point of the matter. Because, as I say, I have a plot bunny problem. Well, oh, all right. We'll get to that, and then we'll do that, and then we'll get to that. Me. You do all know that I can't sing a fucking note, right? I just don't want any of you to be laboring under the misapprehension that I think I can sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dal, and belatedly for Aphrodite as well. Happy birthday to you. And from Fernando as well. There. I'm guessing, Dal, you typed this before, while I was doing that, because I am not doing it again. Right, so, how many things am I writing at once? Katia, welcome back. My other boss. I am the servant of two masters. Three masters, because Dal's is pending. Dal, I don't know any of the songs from the Phantom of the Opera. I know the names. I know the names of the songs, but I can't sing them because I don't know the words. I was very disappointed because this may come as a surprise to you, but I was a drama student. Well, of course, I told you I was an actor, so of course I was a drama student. But when I was in high school, like, what would be the equivalent? Over here, it's called sixth form. I don't know what, because the American grade system, there's not a one-to-one parallel with how it's done over here. But sixth form is like before you go to university. It's 16 through 18, and can I get some context of this, Katia? But yeah, and I was doing my BTEC. Again, there's no American version of the BTEC, so you just have to take my word for what we're doing. And we finally got them to let us do a musical, because the musicals were usually saved for the high school proper, you know, the kids side of it, the ones in uniform. But we were a small class, but finally got the administration to let us do it, and it was Little Shop of Horrors. And I, to my eternal surprise and wonder, was cast as the plant. I was cast as Audrey too. And I was absolutely thrilled. They'd shown us how they were going to build the puppet, and granted, I wouldn't have been the puppeteer. I would have been off stage with a microphone, which suited me fine. I could have sat down with a cup of tea and just done the lines. But then the head, the principal, if you will, changed mid-term, and all of that went out the window, and I never got. Is that what junior college is? I've heard it. I've heard those words said. But there we go. Spectacular. Oh no! Am I still blurry? Am I still pixelated? That's so disappointing. I mean, I am using the only webcam I have is the inbuilt one for this. But yes, thank you, Hal. They're screwing with our bandwidth over here. It's among the reasons I'm on at this hour. It's why I got chopped off of the one I did with Howl and the Bard the other week. It was going okay. The sound was all right. The picture was dreadful, I later found out. But then it simply decided, no, you know what? Fuck you, we're done. Yes, but you can hear me okay. I'm okay to get along with a poor picture, so long as I've got a poor image but a good voice as a way of describing my written work, I think. But so long as you can hear me okay. I would very much like, you know what, I'm just going to put this up for the moment in case anybody wanders along and is wondering, why can't I see a fucking face? Clear as a bell voice-wise, that will do me. I would, oh, we're down to we're down to voice first again. Lovely. I'm very pleased. Really? What is what's happening? What has happened? Katia, please explain. There's very little in the way of context here. Well, from my end, anyway. But yes, to return to Dal's point from earlier, I suffer terribly with these fucking plot bunnies. I have a real plot bunny problem. Specifically, I have a small, semi-feral summoned dragon who will not stop hunting them and dropping them on my doorstep, like a cat with mice. But in order to get them under control, which seemed like a good idea, because the harder I try to work on this rewrite, the more and more things start popping into my head. And I'm usually very nervous about that. I've learned this with Katia, if I could do that, I would be having a much happier time right now. I'm going to show you. Incidentally, fun thing about being a smoker during a pandemic. If you go to the shop for a bottle of milk and you've got just the slight tickle in your throat that comes with a tobacco habit, everybody looks at you like you're that guy in the zombie movie who's got the bite and is trying to hide it. It's fantastic. No one will come near me. It's just how I like it. But yeah, I'm usually very nervous about my plot bunny scenario because, and I've learned this with age, I will just go right ahead, plunge straight first into a project, do a couple of pages, and then it burns out immediately. So I'm only really counting my sincere plot bunnies as anything that stuck around for more than a week. And I started making a list of them. And what I've ended up with is I have... I'm calling this the WIPocalypse. This is where I stand right now. I have 13 novels, 12 short stories, 6 films, and 2 series, all of which are vying for my attention. And so naturally, I'm a little bit wired because the closer I get to the end of this rewrite, even though I have started my new novel, which has a first chapter now, I have got the first chapter of my new book. Well, I say chapter, I've got 3,500 words, which is slightly longer than the average chapter, so I'm counting it. I don't really work out chapters until I've got the solid manuscript, and then I start to cut it to shape. Oh no, Lauren, you're not abandoning me, are you? Please don't. Oh, we've got one from Dal here. Ha. Tell us all, Dal. Today I've been editing this book, The Query Letter, and also tinkering with a video editing app that I can't figure out. This stream is my break from video editing. I am so thrilled to have you here as ever, Dal. How are you finding your query letter? And incidentally, are you in a position where you can do like one standard one, but you only change vaguely for each agent? Or tell me about your query letter. Because I fucking hate query letters, particularly because in the position I'm in now, the agent I sent it to was the fella who'd already read the book and sent me away with the notes. So it was all I could do not to start the query letter with surprise, motherfucker, which would really have summed up my feelings about it. And now I am a hashtag. I have been a t-shirt, a GIF, and now I am a hashtag. How do you like me now? Found those messages were being read from my car while driving. I proceeded to abuse the system of songs and hell. Yes, I did. Again, folks, you'll have to forgive me because I'm getting through these in a really slow order. Dal, is this in relation to me possessing Howl's car from across the Atlantic? Because I would happily possess any of your cars. It is... Now, Howl, is this true? If this is true, it's going to make my goddamn day. Yes, I despise the whole querying thing. There's nothing really comparable to it because it's not like a cover letter for applying for a job. They call it a cover. Over here, we were taught that they were cover letters, which is a terrible thing to call them. I don't know why in England they call them cover letters when they're being sent to an agent, because that has ramifications of it just being like a job interview. And it isn't. It really, really isn't. It's more like a meat market. I must say, though he was a perfectly pleasant fella and he really likes the sort of thing I write, I still don't think this chap is going to go for my book because I know he's reading it in the lockdown, and basically, as I've said before, the first chapter is just, you're a worthless piece of shit and you're going to die. Which was funny at the time when I wrote it. That was very funny. But it is no... Little by little, I am entering the consciousness. No, now, Dal, you can't tell me something like that. You don't want me to become self-aware, do you? You're a fictional character. This are truly, truly horrifying. Yeah, no, you're fucking crazy because how many things are you juggling at once? That ain't human. Well, neither am I. I'm about to, I'm the only human. I've got real last man on earth vibes here. Right. Actually, Aphrodite, while I have you here, I will be coming to Shattered once. Oh, yes. For those of you who didn't know, we are starting the What Now book at bedtime. And Aphrodite was kind enough to provide me with links to the birthday free copies of her 2 books. Shattered, I have open here. It is currently stuck on chapter 2. I had to download the Kindle for PC app, which I've never used before, but goddamn, isn't it ugly? This is the ugliest piece of software I have ever seen. This is Windows 95 shit right here. Like, does anybody remember Encarta? Was that a thing on your side, or was that just here? But yes, your protagonist's first name, I want to say it's pronounced Alia, but I'm not 100% certain. So if you could provide me with a little phonetic deconstruction so I'm not making an absolute twat of myself. A Western dystopian novel. When you say Western, do you mean like Old West? Wild West? Corrals? Questionable depictions of the native population? That sort of thing. There are rarer things in this universe than a happy alien. I'm just going to put it out there, even though it seems to be a somewhat unpopular opinion, and I don't understand why. But the Coen brothers and Jeff Bridges version of True Grit is significantly better than the John Wayne one. As a matter of fact, I don't particularly rate John Wayne as an actor or as a person, frankly. But that's but he's dead now. I'm not, so score that one up. Mind you, the line, I call that bold talk from a one-eyed fat man. Throw your hands, you son of a bitch, is still a great altercation in the history of film. I'm a big fan of that. Actually, I think the best Western is the Treasure of Sierra Madre, which also has the distinction of being one of the most misquoted films in the world. Well, I say in the world, I don't know where other films maybe had. So, what else do we have? What else has been going on? Although the American pronunciation is Oleo. Oleo. Oh, I'm a shit god, but a god nonetheless. Like one of the minor ones, like the ones Loki picks on. But I'm still there. I'm still at the big table. But what else has been going on here in What Now Town? I have this idea because all I have are ideas, and I think the day I realize them all will be the day I collapse into dust. But I would very that wasn't even me trying to read that. That was just me exclaiming that I had seen it, and then I got trapped in Witch Doctor. Says What's this? What's this? There's comments everywhere. No, I said I'm a shite god, a rubbish one, a trashy one. Yes, he did pick on the blind god once. It didn't, if I recall, it didn't go that well for him. And at some point, he was turned into a mare, was shagged by a horse, gave birth to an eight-legged foal, and gave it to his dad because that's how the Norse roll. I went to the grocery store today, sanitized my groceries. Yes, be sure to bleach all broccoli before you eat it. Cleaned my kitchen and organized my junk drawer. Same with the bathroom. Watched a funny baking show. Now I'm here. What makes for a funny baking show? Right, so I've only read the first two chapters, so have no context for that, but nothing requires Disney. It is contagious, is it not? But yes, I have this idea, and I would very much appreciate the input of people not entirely unlike yourselves, who oh, you're Nordic pagan. Oh, right. There is a Nordic pagan temple in Merseyside where I live because they unearthed Viking ruins on the other side of the River Mersey, and the local pagan population had a whip round to rebuild it. And so I live in one of a few parts of England where you can have a Viking wedding. It might be one of a few places outside of Scandinavia. I think that all the vowels are coming out tonight. Um, I think there are parts of the East Coast of the United States where you can because of the whole Vinland thing, which is such a fascinating moment in history. And we know next to nothing about it because Vikings weren't that fond of writing about the times they got their arse kicked, even if it was by the scale rig. It's really nice living in a Celtic and Nordic part of England as opposed to the Saxon part. I do not know this one, but I am still amazed you have only one junk drawer. Hell, I'm not touching. I'm not going near those guys. They know how to they know how to party. I built my own. I built my own god. It's not working out exactly. There's still some teething problems, but he's no. Forgive me. Uh, English teeth ruin certain pronunciations. Vinland. What when the Vikings got to North America, it is strictly speaking. I think it's what nowadays would be Newfoundland. But I think there's like apocryphal talk that or rather there's evidence of Viking presence in like Maine and what have you, places closer to the Canadian border. Because I know that the Vikings did, the Norse did get to North America, and they called it Vinland, Vinland, in an attempt to get colonists over there, and it didn't work because of the scale rig of what is the Fierce folk, who were the Native Americans who kicked the shit out of them and sent them packing. Well, if that is not a humble brag, I do not know what is. But here's the thing I want your opinions on. For some time, I have been using a tarot deck to get me out of difficult plot situations. I use a Egyptian gypsy deck, one of the old book. It's the proper Book of Thoth, but it's not the Aleister Crowley buy one and get a free fucking T-shirt deck. And I use that to help me out with my stories if I genuinely do not know what the hell I'm doing. But I had an idea. to occupy myself during this lockdown, because Lord knows I don't have enough to do, is Aphrodite, thank you so much. My tutors did not think so. They didn't like the idea of me casting a reading for fictional characters. But I am thinking about starting a series of videos which is an interactive, like, choose your own adventure thing, where I'm going to write the opening of a story, and then I'm going to draw 3 cards, and I'm going to let the people in the comments choose whether it's card 1, 2, or 3, because you have to use multiples of 3 with the Egyptian Gypsy deck. And whichever card they pick will define the next part of the story, and so on and so forth until either I run out of cards, or viewers, or patience. Probably the last 2, but if that is an idea that some of you may think is interesting, I will just go ahead and do it, because Lord knows my channel could do with some fluffing. Well, yes and no. I mean, there's so much, pardon me, hokum that comes around with the idea of the tarot deck, because mainly there are so many different versions of it. There's I mean, there's cartomancy, which is divination by use of a standard deck of cards. If you've ever played with a standard deck of cards, you've played with the tarot. It's the same deal. The legend that the tarot is the earthly remains of the Book of Thoth, which contain Thoth, the ibis-headed god of scribes and magic, should be considered the patron saint of authors. I maintain this. And obviously where we get the word gypsies, because the origin legend of the Romani people is that they are the descendants of those Egyptian soldiers who survived Moses closing the Red Sea back on top of them. Gypsy being a contraction of Egyptian. So rearranging and drawing out the particular cards as a way of it's divination, not fortune telling. You know what? I'm just gonna. For the longest time, I have wanted to do a video on my thoughts about, because for those of you who don't know, I am a practicing magician. Well, more of a theorist than anything. This is a Celtic thaumaturgic star, for those of you who are interested. And I'm, oh dear, is it possible that I have come among my people? Aphrodite, we're going to come back to this momentarily. What the hell was I thinking? Yes, an awful lot of my academic work was to do with the connection between ancient magical practices and the art of fiction writing, because ultimately it is a form of shamanic expression. And I have things here. I'm among my people. I have struck a chord here. What is this, my love? I also want you to just tell me everything you know about Romano culture. And I love you. I love you too. I will be on the next flight to Louisiana. Yes, Romani. Is anybody here seen The Life of Brian? Because this is just making me think of that one part. Romani eos domus. Did you indeed, Dal? That is fascinating. a truly ancient people that have managed to keep a hold of their culture uncontaminated more than most. It's a remarkable feat. I can't think of any culture on Earth that can claim the same. You people keep me going. Do you know that? Oh shit! Yes, Romani's in Hungary. We are all fans of Dal here. We all love her very dearly. There's an awful lot of my academic work was to do with this idea that fiction writing is the modern version of magical practices. I was able to argue my point, but I keep coming back and forth about whether or not to do my PhD in that. I think I might get left out the door. So I'm going to get the PhD in order to research that more, but I will save that for a full video because frankly, it is an enormous topic that covers about 50,000 years of human history. So I don't want to just sort of waffle on it and possibly misrepresent particular ideas, because even with the best of intentions, a small misrepresentation at the beginning can deviate into something dreadful. There you are, folks. We are now on a mission to tell the adorable author all of the things. Nothing will be omitted. I hope this is understood. I'm just going to go ahead here. You folks talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm going to line up Shattered here. I really, really hate the layout of this app. It is just the ugliest fucking thing. And there's no, if I do that, oh Christ. Yeah, there's no zoom out. Unless, no, that is search. Christ. If I was a good friend, I'd have bought the fucking book. Oh, that's another thing that's worrying me about the Dead Meat Sextet rewrite. Because at present it's 116,900 or something words. And I gave myself a particular cutoff of 120,000 because that is roughly 400 pages and is a reasonable length for a first book. Looking at Aphrodite's page count here, she agrees. And I really don't want it to go much further. I have 2 scenes that I might have to put into it. And if I can do it in 4,000 words, I'm laughing. Not that I ever laugh. I am a, as you know, joyless, black-hearted creature who has never known love or companionship. But that doesn't mean I don't know how to put a book together. It totally means that I am so out of my depth. Including a, oh, hello, we're back. Including a biracial white Romani character in my sci-fi. It's been interesting to do that. I can imagine. Oh, you see, I'm still not in the pandemic mindset because I looked at that and was immediately fit. No, now I do want to know what mask. What? You don't strike me as the, oh, maybe just like one of the V for Vendetta ones. Is that just how you get your rocks off? Is that what we do in the Sophia house? Sophia? Who the fuck is Sophia? It's what we do in the Sophia house. I'll just dress up as Alan Moore characters and relax because I do the same. I just dress up as Alan Moore. That is becoming more true with every passing day. And I hope you all know what Alan Moore looks like. Or at least have have a symbolic reference. I've run out of tea, but yeah, dudes do as well. Did you really think this was a beard? This is a root. Yes, Dal, I do apologize. I realized as I said it. This is why I threw on the clarifier of any reference. I do apologize most sincerely for that. Yes, I will. Getting on to 45 minutes. How that is possible is utterly fucking beyond me. But I will wait until about the hour mark. And then we will have Aphrodite's book. It is a very long first chapter. So I think what I will do, there is a neat break on page 11. Because I think last time I read about, I think I read about 5 pages of mine. And I think it was about the same of Dal's. I think it was a comparable amount. So I will go. Ah, Aphrodite, hello, hello, hello. What do we have here? Yes, I know you do, Dal. And it's a wonderful way of making a chap very nervous that he may have made a faux pas. But don't worry, I'm getting it. I'm getting onto your sense of humor little by little. We will get there. Is that a pun, my love? We're all there in spirit and you're talking about booze. Puns, puns, puns. All right. So, Aphrodite, I don't know if you heard me. Hang on a second. Listen, the honor was all mine. It really, really was. I like how I've got a small but loyal audience. It means that I'm probably only going to be able to do as many books at bedtime as you people write them, but we're getting there. Good Lord. I did not know that, Aphrodite. We are learning all manner of things about each other. I'm legally dead. It's a minor legal point, trying to get it sorted out, but we will work it out. So, Aphrodite, I don't know if you heard me before. I don't know if I was saying this. Yes, you are, and I the mere mortal among you. It makes a chap feel very, very useful and very, very good about himself. It was a pun. Well, and then they both reached for the pun. So, yes, I'll try this a third time. Aphrodite, I don't know if you heard me. I don't know if you had come back while I was saying this, but as we are creeping towards the hour mark, I have shouted open here. It is a tremendously long first chapter. So I'm going to go as far as the action break on page 11, because that is roughly comparable to the amount of mine and the amount of Dowell's I read last time, which I think, trying to remember, was about a 10-minute read, I think. And though you are all incredibly kind, I think that under certain circumstances, my unbroken voice may become a little dull. The only regret I have is that there is no smoking on this lease, so I can't smoke in the house. I would dearly love to have an ashtray and a cigarette right now. Wouldn't that just be magnificent? You know, if I had a scotch and a cigarette and just read it, that'd do me. Yeah, yes, I think it was about 10 minutes. What do we have? What do we have? Oh, okie dokie. Right, let me readjust myself. God, I do apologize, ladies. Whatever will you think of me? Okie dokie. Alia. I'm not going to attempt the American pronunciation because I can't do it, and it's apparently wrong anyway. So, if you are all sitting comfortably, feel free to talk amongst yourselves, but obviously, well, what can I say to that? Except it's nice to be slipping into your subconsciouses. Okie dokie, ladies. If I do apologize, I keep popping up as I'm trying to close them. Right, if you are sitting comfortably, talk amongst yourselves, because obviously I will not be able to see what you're saying. And for any scatters or stammers, I can only apologize. I've only had an opportunity to rehearse this once. Chapter 1. This is exactly why the crazed maniacs never run out of people to hack to death, Alia thinks to herself as she stands alone by the transport bench. The unseasonably chilly breeze is teasing at the hem of her kilt, threatening to show a little more than would be acceptable. She doesn't have enough hands to hold on to her crutches and fool with, and fool with her wayward garment. So she chooses the lesser of two evils and keeps her balance. It's dark still, uncomfortably so, given the eerie, unfamiliar surroundings. Why aren't there others here? More than anything, Alia wishes this part was over, and she was already settled into whatever would ultimately become her routine. Second to that, she wishes she could just sit down, but the full-length cast on her left leg is not about to ease. Several minutes, glimpses of the sun try to peek through the dense canopy. She looks around, hoping to see just one uniform. How early am I, for goodness? To end up from the half behind her, even though she still cannot see them, getting loud. She gets out of breath, out of breath of relief. Finally, other students. The mini transport buses come into view and can get onto the black top where Alia is waiting. The end passed, and 6 drivers keep going down the uneven asphalt road. As a 7th makes the turn from the steep, winding path down the road, Alia's heart sinks. She takes a few hobbles forward onto the road and waves down that last bus. He stops and rolls down his window. "Excuse me," she yells to him. "What time will the buses be returning? I've been waiting at this transport stop for a while. I kind of got here early today, and..." "Early?" the driver interrupts. "Young lady, you're late." This is the transport stop of the students living in the apartments off campus, and I'm afraid they're already gone. I'm the last bus until noon. Oh my God, she says. The driver rolls his window up and pulls off, and Alia's heart begins to race. When she insisted that her sister drop her off at the student transport spot, she hadn't considered the fact that there was more than one. She picks up her backpack and secures it to her back the best she can while trying not to fall forward. She'd been advised not to walk on the cast at all for at least another 3 weeks, but she's already missed a week and a half of classes as it was. The last thing she wanted was the additional dread of having to make up assignments. She looks over her shoulders at the path that leads to a school that was so far up that it wasn't visible from where she currently stood. She sighs again, and she positions herself on her crutches and begins to walk towards it. A kingdom for a car, she mumbles. As her brain gets used to the idea of having to make the walk, she hears a bus making its way back to her. It stops beside her, and the door swings open. It's the driver she spoke to. "Come on, miss," he says, smiling. Alia returns the smile as she carefully climbs onto the bus. She sits, resting her cast-laden leg across 2 seats, then breathes a sigh of relief. "I can't save you from the tardy issue, but I can at least get you there, miss," the driver says as he pulls off. "I appreciate it. Thank you." The steep path winds and turns its way up with beautiful white oak trees on each side that are so dense they refuse to let any of the new day's light shine through, making it seem darker than it really is. The garden lights are still beaming, highlighting the... Did I read that right? I do apologize. But yes. The garden lights are still beaming, highlighting the rows and rows of blood-orange snapdragon plants that flank the entire path. She thinks to herself that she will have to come back and pick some. Alia loves snapdragons, especially orange ones. She considers them a sign of good fortune and great things to come. As she enjoys the scenery, she wonders if giving up the chance to have a car this year or go to Halstead will really be worth it. Her mother wanted her to finish at Catholic school, and knowing how desperately Alia wanted a car, she tried to bribe her with a choice between the two. When Alia chose Halstead over the car, her mother was shocked. But Alia felt in her heart of hearts this was the right decision. She also felt that her mother would ultimately give in and buy her the car anyway. She was wrong. As soon as Alia touches the doorknob, she instantly finds her smile. "My whole life is about to change," she promises herself. She pulls, but the door would not budge an inch. She peeks through the door's window pane and sees a girl sitting at a square folding table alone. The passageway was huge, so much so that if you stare long enough, you get dizzy. The floors were so shiny that they reflect the ceiling, which was equally shiny, back on itself. Alia knocks and gets the girl's attention, but the girl doesn't move to assist her. She knocks harder. With an eye roll, the girl finally gets up and unlocks the door, not bothering to open it or help Alia in any way. She turns on her heels. She turns on heel and goes back to her table and chair. Seriously? Alia asks herself as she struggles to reach the table, still sporting a smile. No way was she going to let some girl with a bad attitude ruin her mood. "Hi," Alia says. "I guess I'm late?" "Name," the girl says, without looking up at her. "Alia. Alia Shaw." The girl lifts her head briefly and takes stock of Alia, fixing her eyes on her name tag, which reads A. Shaw, etched in pale grey over a black background. Alia notices the girl's name tag is done in the opposite colours. Good, Alia thinks to herself. At least this Kinlaw chick won't be in any of my classes. The girl checks the time and writes it down on a slip of paper. Then she scribbles something more that Alia can't make out upside down into her ledger. A weird noise which draws Alia's attention comes from the huge wooden double doors. The Kinlaw chick turns towards the sound as well, eyes big. "Did you hear that?" Alia asks. "Take this and go up those stairs," she says, shoving the slip into Alia's face and then pointing to a set of stairs which were almost hidden from view. Alia reads it, and then slips the paper into her shirt pocket, Go upstairs, and then what? Kinlaw blows out a breath of frustration, then rolls her eyes again. There's a small room at the top of the stairs, she says, as if it's taking all of the energy she could muster, waiting there for first bell. Alia tries to keep her cool, even though this girl was rude to her at every turn for no reason. Well, fuck her, Alia says to herself. One bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch. As Alia crosses the floor, it reflects her image back up to her. What a mess. Giant cast, 1,000,000 books, hair all over her head from rushing. All this on her first day. No wonder that Kinlaw chick treated her like a freak. And now a set of stairs to manage. She silently prays for a break. As she reaches the top of the steps, she can see into the room where she was instructed to wait. There are 3 young men already there. As soon as they see her, they stop talking, straighten up in their chairs, and stare at her with blank expressions. No, that's not rude at all, she mumbles as she enters. She makes her way to the first chair she comes to and sits as gracefully as her cumbersome cast would allow, dropping her backpack beside her. Good morning, she says. They all nod in unison. Alia sighs and takes it all in stride. She's the new girl. Can't expect to be accepted right out of the gate. Excuse me. The computer is still trying to restart itself. I will not let it. Alia sighs and takes it all in stride. She's the new girl. Can't expect to be accepted right out of the gate. But she had, at least, expected people to have manners. She unzips her bag and hunts for her schedule. When she finds it, she tries to make sense of it. But it wasn't happening. She was going to need some help, but who to ask? The Stepford triplets or Miss Rude Kinlaw? Alia decides to choose door number 3 and puts the schedule away. After about 5 minutes, she hears a dull commotion downstairs. She tries to peek out of the door, but she can't see anyone. The triplets begin to stare as well. Curiosity getting the best of her, she gets up and goes into the hallway. She leans over the banister of the stairs and looks down into the entry hall, where Kinlaw is still sitting at her little square folding table. Only this time, she's not alone. A very tall, dark-haired young man is standing in front of her. Next to him is a girl with long, messy blonde hair. Alia can't make out either of their faces. She quietly leans further to eavesdrop on their conversation. I know what time it is, the young man says. All I'm asking is that you not put me down in the book. Come on, do me a solid. The blonde girl beside him doesn't say a word. She fidgets with her name tag. Pale grey letters, black background. Both of them. I'll be the one in trouble if I get caught, Kinlaw protests. I'll owe you, the young man counters, and me owing you is better than any trouble you could possibly get in. Kinlaw looks up at him and gives in, closing the ledger. She folds both her chair and table and places them against the wall near the front doors. She puts her ledger under her arm and the trio head for the stairs. Alia scurries back into the room and to her chair as quickly as she can. As she sits, Kinlaw, the blonde, whose face she still can't see because she won't hold up her head and is holding her books tight to her chest, enters the room. A few beats behind is the young man. He boldly walks into the room and heads over to the triplets, unaware that Alia was there. He high-fives them and they return. Then they motion for him to look Alia's way, which he does. Alia chokes down a gasp when she finally sees his face. He is easily 6'2", broad shoulders, narrow hips, muscular but not overly so, with wavy dark hair that is just shy of being cold black. Where his friends look a little rough around the edges, he's neat and polished. But it's his eyes that are truly amazing. The left one is a weird shade of grey, so bright and clear it looks as if it sparkles. The right is also grey, but darker with silvery flecks. Breathtaking. He looks her up and down, and smiles at her. The first gesture of kindness from this truly beautiful man, wearing a name tag that reads, See Sophos. Alia can't help but blush and return the smile. The only boys she's ever seen this beautiful were on television or in magazines. The bell rings and slightly startles Alia. They all file out of the room like automatons, leaving Alia behind. She scrambles to gather her things and tries to catch up to them, but by the time she gets back on her crutches and leaves the room, the whole crew has dispersed. She spots Sophos turning a corner and follows his path to the end of a hall. When she finally reaches the end, she is greeted by two huge wooden doors with deep carvings in them. She can't help but pause to stare at them for a moment. They are so beautifully intricate. As she reaches to open one, it slowly swings towards her. She backs up and freezes. Once again, she is taken aback when she sees Sophos standing there holding the door. More manners. She thinks to herself that she has hit the jackpot with this guy. Students are quickly, yet quietly, grabbing things from lockers and hurrying into classrooms. "Thank you so much," Alia says to him, as she nervously crosses the door sill. She lets the door close on its own behind them as she takes a few staggers forward into the traffic of students. She stops and turns to turns and finds him standing so close she almost falls into him. He's still smiling. And again with those eyes. For a moment, she forgets her query but gains composure once more. I'm a little lost," she says, placing her backpack down and fishing for her schedule. Finding it, she looks up to him and asks, "Could you show me where to go?" Sophos doesn't bother to look at her sheet. Instead, he moves in closer, uncomfortably closer. His smile was replaced with an almost sinister smirk. He looks down at her face, and a chill she can't define runs up her spine. "I don't care where you go," he says nonchalantly. Never in my life said this goddamn word out loud, but you gave it to me to read. "We don't want niggers in our school." He pushes past her and walks down the hall to his classroom. Alia stands frozen in place. All the other students have already cleared the hallway, and once again, she is lost and alone and scared. Alia's first thoughts of Sophos gnaw at her. How could I not feel his true vibes? How come her instincts failed her so tremendously, she wonders. Didn't her mother instill in her that the devil always comes in pretty packages? How could she let herself be caught so off guard? Why did she not feel it coming? Tears begin to sting her eyes as she slowly comes to the conclusion that all the dreams she had of Halstead are quickly turning into nightmares. Once again, she would be in a place that didn't welcome her. If she could run, she would. But to where? Alia puts her backpack on again and heads for the carved doors. First chance she gets, she plans to call her sister, Iona, and tell her to come pick her up. This place is just not worth it. "Miss Alia?" Someone yells out to her a few doors down the hall. She turns to find an older gentleman. "You're in the right place," he says, waving her in. As she makes her way, he sees she's struggling. He calls on a male student to come out and assist her. A burly young man runs down to Alia and gently removes her backpack from her. She worries at first, but decides the worst he could do is run off with it, and at this point, she doesn't care. He walks alongside her as she room. I really should have asked for the pronunciation of this name. I do apologize. "I'm Mr. Ruggiero." "Mathematics," the older gentleman says to her, extending his hand to be shaken. She does. The burly boy carries the bag over to a desk and then returns to his own. Alia peeks into the room. All the students are sitting with eyes on her. She looks over to the desk where her backpack was placed, and the chills fill her spine again. Sophos's chair is next to it. He's sitting there, staring at her with that smile that has now lost all of its power. Class, this is Miss Alia Shaw. In unison, the class says, "Good morning," to her. Consider yourself lucky she chose us, he continues. She is truly one of the brightest and most talented students I have ever come across in all my years of teaching. Gee, thanks, a student, one of the triplets, says, obviously kidding. The class chuckles a bit. She beat out hundreds of other candidates, and when I say beat out, she blew them out of the water. We are quite honoured to have you here, miss. I should have asked how his name is pronounced. Ruggiero? Sir, Sophos says, interrupting him. Do you plan to continue embarrassing her, or sometime during the course of the class can she sit down? My apologies, he says to her, and points to her seat. As she gets closer to it, Sophos rises, which stops her dead in her tracks. He moves her bag from the seat and drapes it on the back of his chair, then moves the desk in front of hers to the back of the room, giving her more space to sit comfortably. He returns to his seat. She watches him in sheer confusion. He looks up at her with a big smile. She looks away. I'll see to it that you are better accommodated by tomorrow, the teacher says as he writes a note for himself. Please don't, Alia says. I won't be in this thing much longer. Well, until you're not, he says, and he keeps writing. Alia looks around the room. All eyes are still on her. Some blank, some seething, and a myriad of looks that fall in between. If she had the power to disappear, she would surely use it right now. And what to make of this Sophos guy? 1 minute he's a complete asshole, and the next, could she have misunderstood? Which part of him is she misreading? And if that will do you... Oh, that was more than 10 minutes. I do apologize. There's something reading through it I didn't notice the first 2 times I read through it. You wrote Grey the English way. You spelled it with an E rather than an A. It was like meeting a friend in a foreign country. Oh, you have been busy. What have we got here? I will be with you in a moment, everybody. Oh, I didn't... The image didn't go down, did it? Oh, no. Please tell me that you did actually hear it, even if the picture went odd. Oh, my Lauren left me. Why do they always leave me? What have I missed? Oh, ladies, ladies, ladies. With an A, it's the surname. Oh. I don't know if you could hear that, but it sounded like my television was about to explode. Yes, I think what I might have done is I might have fumbled this a little bit, and it's while I was scrolling down the pages, and I think it took a moment to readjust itself. But if that suits you, if that has done the job I promised I would do, then I am very, very happy to have obliged, even though I stupidly did not check the pronunciation on the math teacher's name. So I had to mangle the sentences a little just to get the flow right, for which I can only apologize. But I hope, most sincerely, that does you. Ah, that's that's well, that's show worthy, certainly. That's made my day. That's really, really very touching. Thank you. Even if the now, that's all very well and good, but is that G pronounced as a G or a G? Is it a hard G or a soft one? You see, when you get complicated British surnames, it's usually just a matter of complicated syllabics. Then pronunciations. Yes, 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 Dal. Thank you, thank you. Oh, so it's Ruggiero. Well, I have a mild roticism, so it's a nightmare word anyway. I had to sort of teach myself to roll my R's, and I still can't do it properly. Oh, well. Welcome back, Q. So very, very, very good to see you. How are you? So nice to have you back with us. You did miss the book at bedtime, I'm afraid. We have just finished a dramatic reading of Aphrodite's book. But, because what I've realized is because I've just watched my view account leap up. And by leap up, I mean by 2. One of whom is Q. Very good to have you. And, oh, it's just gone down to 7. I must have scared someone off. What do we have here? What do we have here? G and G words are usually soft like Jack. Yes, that is absolutely true. It was the R's that I was having difficulty with. I have a bit of difficulty with the pronunciation of R's. I'm no longer fuzzy. Right, this is about the time it stopped being fuzzy last time, if you remember. Because Katia was good enough to point out that I look like oatmeal, which is a definite improvement on how despicable my face is generally. But it was round about this time that it started to clear up anyway, at the very, very end. So I think we've worked out, ladies and gentlemen, well, ladies, where the English bandwidth is starting to go back up. What do we have? We will have to do some mutual rehearsal of the Icelandic names and words at some point this summer. Yes, we will. We absolutely will. I'd say I'd look forward to that, but it is a necessary evil. Oh, if you are interested in the rewatch queue, I started at about the 50-minute mark. 55 minutes, I think. Yeah, it's a compensation thing because, as I've said, I have a very slight roticism, and the only way I can overcome it is by really opening my mouth and occasionally rolling the damn thing. It's one of the reasons I look like a lion when I'm speaking. That was always the trick to doing an Alan Rickman impression. If you want to speak like Alan Rickman, never let your lips touch your teeth. What have we got? What have we got? Things are happening. Oh, that's so kind. Thank you. I would, but right now it is 20 minutes past 3 in the morning. And given that 2 hours is roughly a good length of a stream, clocking off at 5 o'clock is a little bit of a stretch, but this is what I And this is the game I play with a predominantly American audience. We have 8 people with us. Someone is hiding. Well, hang on a second. Yes, I can imagine you don't. Because, well, actually, neither would I if you did a 3 a.m. stream, because your 3 a.m. stream would be, I think, about my 7 or 8 o'clock. Maybe. Actually, that's, no, I am not a functional person. At that, dude, if we ever get brave enough to let you read Blood Herring live, I might go for Rickman choice. I would love to read Blood Herring live, but the problem is it's in first person and is most definitely American, and I cannot do an American accent. Well, I can't do one that isn't cartoonishly offensive. Is the point? What? Oh, Aphrodite. Well, I can read your other one. I can read the other book you gave me live right now with voices and sound effects, if you like. Shadow puppets as well. Well, it's all very well and good. But I am I don't even know. That sentence completely got away from me. I've started that. You want me to read Gabe as Alan Rickman? Oh, no, not the. As in, I will, because I haven't read it yet. But I will think of the most sexual word I can think of, type it into the search bar of the document, and just go straight to that. I'm not actually going to do that, but it would be hilarious if I did. And also, I've closed Kindle now, and I'm not so inclined as to reopen it. I'm very conscious of my rolling R's now. Magnificent. So, I love the way this is phrased, because there's no illusion that I have a choice in the matter. And I am okay with this. This is more than all right by me. So, what is on your mind, ladies and optional gentlemen, potential gentlemen, potential men? What is on your mind? What are we thinking? What are we feeling tonight? Can you not admit that Gabe and Rick would be freaking hilarious? It would. It would. And Peter Lorre. I'd read Lily as Peter Lorre. Although my Peter Lorre impression tends to veer ridiculously towards Brain, if you see what I mean, which is more Maurice LaMarche doing an Orson Welles impression, but it comes out as Peter Lorre. Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Hello, Q. What do you have for us? Bring us the good news. I'm just debating what to do next myself. More editing, reading, or organizing. I am totally against the idea of organizing. It is a waste of effort. Throw everything up into the air and wait until they make. Thank you. Throw everything up into the air. Wait for it to fall, and then look for the pretty patterns that they make. And I suppose you could call that a kind of organizing. This is why I've never done one of those tour of my workspace or library videos. That's Lorre, Lorre. You'll recognize him. He's an old, well, he's that old. He's fucking dead. Um, but a classic movie actor, always plays the villain. Always spoke like this. He's in a Casablanca and everything else. But he's been caricatured in so many things. You'll recognize him and not recognize that you recognize him. When you don't recognize or recognizing, you may not recognize yourself. Do you see what I mean? Again, he's uh, see the previous ramble. Oh, this all happened. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah, it's a he's one of the most impersonated people on the planet, and the victim of probably the greatest burn in cinematic history in Casablanca when he says, "You despise me, don't you, Rick?" And Bogart says, "Hell, if I ever thought about you, I might." Oh, what a! Incidentally, Casablanca is such a good film. It is. You know how people can overhype a film? Well, Casablanca is as good as people say it is. It's ah, yeah, it's serious ego vibes. The voice in my head is now Peter Lorre. I hope you're happy. He was in. I can't remember who the star was, but it's a fantastic classic movie. No, you know what? I think it's Cary Grant. Hang on. But anyway, it's called Arsenal Lace, and it's one of the best black comedies. No, it's not. Yes, it is. It's Cary Grant. There we are. Um, it's a black comedy from the 40s, and this fella played by Cary Grant goes to visit his two aunts who are murderers. These two little old ladies are just killing people, and the uncle thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt and charges up the stairs. It's hilarious. It's really funny. Um, oh god, I'm such a black and white movie nerd. I love that Aphrodite, Madam. Oh, and we've got songs here as well. So that's another example of lines that don't exist in Casablanca. At no point in it will you hear the line "Play it again, Sam." It doesn't exist. Sherlock Holmes at no point in the source material says "Elementary, my dear Watson." Nobody in the original Star Trek ever said "Beam me up, Scotty." These are things that people just imagine and they become a part of it. It's a really interesting psychological phenomenon. It's such a good. Honestly, Arsenic and Lace is such a good film. Now Ed Wood. Now we're talking. The the history of the B movie. Bride of the Monster is one of those films that is so bad, it's beautiful. Poor, massively indebted Bela Lugosi lying in a pond, wrapping foam octopus tentacles around himself. It's so sad, but it's a real it's a real tragedy. I don't know why no one's ever written like a historical novel or made a film about it, about the parallel careers and fortunes of Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. Because famously, when James Whale was making Frankenstein for Universal, Bela Lugosi was attached to play the monster, still part of his contract after the success of Dracula. And he turned it down when he realized that the monster didn't speak, there were no lines. And then, serious actor, I need the lines or I don't go on set, etc., etc. and and Boris Karloff just happened to be in the line of the canteen getting his lunch, and James Whale spotted him. But the thing is, Boris Karloff was a character actor who'd already made like 100 films in bit parts because he had a very, very remarkable. If you've ever seen a photograph of Boris Karloff when he's not in makeup, he's a very, very striking individual, half Indian. He was I think either his mother or his father was Indian. I can't remember which. Because Boris Karloff wasn't his real name. I think it was Henry Pratt, but that has nothing to do with this. But anyway, very, very striking chap, and always got cast as bit parts, character pieces. So when he was cast as the monster, and that beautiful, somber, very, very poignant, almost entirely in gesture and expression performance that we all know and love, he adored being Frankenstein's monster and loved being the mummy. Whereas Bela Lugosi, who had initially been very sneering towards Karloff, absolutely hated being Dracula. Or rather, that's not true, because after all, he was buried in the Cape, and he was still playing Dracula in seaside resorts across England in the last decade of his life. It's more what Dracula did to his career. He didn't like being tied in with the whole monster thing. He always wanted to be a serious character actor. Whereas Karloff just absolutely adored being the monster. So it's a really interesting parallel between the two. What have we got here? Oh, I've skipped something. I've skipped something. You think the Tim Burton Ed Wood movie is crappy, Hal? I think it's a masterpiece, frankly. But I would love to hear your reasoning. Oh, now the Elephant Man, David Lynch, John Hurt, and Anthony Hopkins. Very, very good film. Not as strange as you would expect a David Lynch piece to be, particularly because of the subject matter being a freak show. You'd think David Lynch would be hell for metal with that kind of thing. But again, it's a very, very poignant film, even if the history of it isn't great. In fact, most of it is made up. That is not really how. Well, for starters, his name wasn't John Merrick, it was Joseph Merrick. And none of it happened the way it does in the film. The film makes it look significantly worse. This is not to say that Joseph Merrick had a nice life. He did not. He had a very tragic and miserable existence. But it wasn't in the way the film showed it to be. But nevertheless, it's a very, very good and beautifully shot film. Yeah, the thing is, we talk about is it 1930 or 1920? Anyway, the Todd Browning, Bela Lugosi, Dracula. It is a classic of the genre. It codified sound horror films, and the performance is definitive. And yet, here's the thing: it's shit. It's really, really bad. It's boring. It's really boring. Nobody knew how to shoot a horror film with sound, so it is almost unwatchable. The Bela Lugosi Dracula. It is that bad. But there is something you can do, because of a weird thing. Well, I say weird, it's actually genius. Universal used to do at the time in the 20s and 30s was because of in California and the borders right down there, they used to make Spanish language versions of their films at the same time. So the English language version would film during the day, and then the Spanish language crew with a whole new cast would come in of a night and just use the same sets and costumes. The Spanish language version of Universal's Dracula is a much, much better film. And you can watch it because it has exactly the same script. It's exactly the same film. It just has different actors, is in Spanish, and has a different director. A director who has a better idea on how to put a film together. Sorry, I'm getting tied up in my my love of old movies. because I really, really, really want to be a director. I do. I don't know if any of you saw my film, my shit little amateur movie. Yes, there is a story on YouTube about Norris. Who is Norris? If you could help me out here, Aphrodite, I think I've got ahead of myself. Oh, Boris, there we are. Yes, thank you. William Henry Pratt, that was his name. That was his real name. Frankenstein is remarkable, but I'm on a crusade. I'm on a bit of a crusade here, because I discovered it while I was researching for my PhD proposal. There is an idea in the literary and geek communities, and the general rule of thumb is that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is the first science fiction novel adapted out of the Romantic tradition into the nascent Gothic traditions, and because unlike reactionary texts like, say, Marlowe's Dr. Faustus or The Chemical Wedding, it is including aspects of the Industrial Revolution and is more overtly scientific. It has a scientist as its protagonist, but one of its protagonists. But here's the thing. Mary Shelley did not write the first science fiction novel. And not even in two of the novels that are arguably part of the genre. It's because she also wrote The Last Man, which is, in fact, the first example of post-apocalyptic fiction, which includes certain things that are aspects of what we now consider the post-apocalyptic genre. Also the pandemic genre, which is hilarious for now. But whenever she considered the future, it was only ever an extrapolation of the time she lived in. No, it is a figure who is lost to history. So many people don't know who she was. Apart from that, her name was Jane Loudon, Loundon, who 2 years after the publication of Frankenstein, she was clearly a fan. She had clearly read Shelley's work and admired it. Jane Loudon wrote the first science fiction novel. It was called The Mummy. Specifically speaking, it was called The Mummy because it has an exclamation mark in the title, A Tale of the 22nd Century. And it is remarkable. It is utterly fantastic. Again, it borrows from Frankenstein because the mummy is revitalized by scientific techniques in the 22nd century, but her predictions for the future are uncanny. Mechanical horseless carriages, flying machines commercially, and particularly important, the role of women in society, because at court they're wearing trousers. Which, given that we're talking 1818 when this was written, is a remarkable thing. Women in a position of power wearing trousers. To the 1818 mind, that would have been something else. Something she didn't get right because she also had this idea that women would be wearing these complicated, like, chandelier things in their hair. I mean, there's still time if you want to get that going. And oh, things are here, things are here. I don't blame you. I do apologize again. My next one won't be. The next one will have a fucking script. I do apologize, Aphrodite. I've got way ahead of myself and should have been monitoring the comments better. What was I talking about? Oh. Spectacular. Well, I'm a rank amateur. I've the lowest of the low. I've finally made my first short film, which is on my channel, and it was made with a crew and a cast of 2. So it was just to see if I could shoot something and cut it together into a narrative. Yes, it is on Project Gutenberg. Because it's like I am not dismissing what Mary Shelley gave us as a culture, as a language, and to the world of literature. I am not. I'm just saying that we should not forget Jane Loudon, who is the real mother of science fiction. The fact that a non-aristocratic woman created the genre I love so much is very important to me. Ribbons, hairspray, bobby pins. What the fuck? Yeah, it's a very peculiar. It's a very peculiar book because you can imagine what the because by the early 19th century, the idea of the mass-produced novel was still a reasonably new thing. I think the first generally considered to be a novel is Don Quixote, which frankly everybody should read. Don Quixote. It's one of my favorite books. It's even 500 years on. 500, yeah, a little under 500 years on. It's still fucking hilarious and really, really sad, but also hilarious and very clever. And it's like 900 pages long because we didn't know how to stop back then because nobody knew what a novel was. He was inventing it right there. But the idea of a mass-produced novel was a reasonably new idea. So prose fiction is of a very, very different standard to what it is today. So think of it more as like an ideas piece. And remember that, fuck me, this book isn't even Victorian. Victoria was not on the throne when this book was written. Hello, 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 Ava. I'm sorry to say you have what has Ava missed? Can somebody give her a rundown because I do not know where I am or what I'm doing. Well, it's the major crux of my PhD work, or will be anyway. Science, the societal history of science fiction. So yeah, I just don't like the idea of this woman being forgotten. She was so important to it, and it's not that Mary Shelley was not brilliant. It's just that she wasn't the only girl in town. Also, Jane Loudon made most of her money through writing books on gardening. She only ever wrote one novel. Everything else she wrote was on practical gardening. It's the past is a different universe. Oh, we've got some Quixote fans in here. Oh, sorry. Yes, we do. We have someone hiding. I think earlier Katia said that she was around. She was just listening. So, hello, 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 Katia. If you're out there, welcome back, Ava. We've got 7 people, but we will take it as read. Yeah, Don Quixote is remarkable. It's a fantastic achievement. And for the book I'm writing now, I've said this to Howell before, I am desperately trying to find a way to see if I can cram, or at least if I can get William Shakespeare and Miguel de Cervantes into the same room. Because there's really no way in history they would ever have met, but they were certainly aware of each other's work. Because Shakespeare adapted a section of Don Quixote for the stage. And it's just unreasonable to think that Cervantes wasn't aware of his English counterpart. But it's intriguing. It's absolutely fascinating. This great span of it. I think perhaps I'm going to call time on this at the 2-hour mark, which gives us 15 minutes. I thought Amanda might have turned up. I will tease her terribly on her next stream for not being here. I will do my very, very best heartbroken impression. So, is there anything on everybody's mind? I am here, after all, to answer all of your questions about life, the universe, and everything. That's very sweet. I lurk in the shadows. It was me all along. I don't have any children of my own, but I've got a niece and a nephew, and they're enough work, and they don't even live with me. So I can't imagine what it's like for the rest of you. Loundon. It's London with a U after the first O. You know what? Now I'm doubting myself. I'm going to very, very quickly Google that. I just could. To me, it is a travesty that she's been forgotten. Oh, you look at that. It is so sad. You type her name in, and her gardening stuff comes up first before the mummy. Loudon. Right. Sorry, not Loudon. Loudon. I'm just gonna type it in. There's no N. I thought there was an N, but there isn't. We've got to say, that is not an inconsiderable age gap. But from what I remember being 23, very similar temperaments. Actually, there we are. Settle a bet. Howell, you're not allowed to play because you know the answer. How old do you think I am? If you actually know the answer, don't answer, but it's just to settle a bet. I don't think of any other a figure in the history of science fiction who has been forgotten, and it's a travesty because is Dal, how the fuck did you get that? How did you get that number? Because yeah, I'm 27, and you're the first person ever to actually get my age right in the first go. If you'd read my mind, you'd have got 8,006. But there we are. Shocking, shocking, shocking. So, moving forward, what we will be doing on this channel is I am just about to get to work on the next of the Write a Book with What Now series, because I think I've done enough research for my new book to start talking about how I research a book. Maybe, hopefully, because I'll have a video to make of it. I will write the first part of this tarot choose your own adventure series if it is something people would want. And what else? Oh yes, I will be setting up for the series I'm calling What Now's What If, which will be a show where you can write in with your world building ridiculous what if questions, and I have to make them work as functional plot lines. I can't have an alien boss because I myself am not an alien. We're not even in the we're not in the same company, playing a different game. Yeah, it is. It's the beard, the voice, the grey, and the what can I say? My sunny disposition. What's down here? Planet rank. What's this? Oh, it's not. I don't have the examples. It'll be other people sending them to me. So it's like anything that can be phrased as a what if question will be sent to me, and I will try and spin an actual functional world out of them. But this is good. Planet rank. I'm very much in favor of this idea. I do apologize if this has been something of a dull show, ladies. I will endeavor in future to think of better programming for you, but I will be seeing as the the whole book at bedtime thing seems to have been somewhat popular. I will start advertising in a wider capacity amongst the AuthorTube brethren, such as they are, to see if anybody else wants a go at that. And with any luck, I may be able to turn this into something entertaining. Not necessarily holding out any hope in that regard, but you never can tell. Hopefully, by the time I see you again, cannot say when that will be, but I will have a finished goddamn manuscript. Well, I've got a finished manuscript. I'll have a finished fucking book. I'll be on the way with another one. What's going on here? Well, this is the thing, Ava. There's for a small community, there's fucking loads of it. Nowadays, you can't. I mean, if I sit down on the sofa too fast, author tubers fall out of my pockets and roll into the gaps between the cushions. But alas, I am not monochromatic. Oh God, what am I among? What have I begun? Well, we are drawing towards the end of our time together. I cannot adequately express just what it has meant to me to have you all here. I mean, the best cults start small. We all know that. I wonder if I can fit in a joke about it being Easter to go with that. I can't tell. Which is a visual for me? Help me out here. Because it's necessary, because I have no idea what I'm saying, what I'm doing. I'm opening my mouth, moving my mouth, and we're all finding out together just what I'm going to say. Well, I don't think Caddy would come back over this, but just in case he does, Caddy, it's fucking cute. It's well cute. Magnificent. Holding out until the very last. Surprise, here be your lurker. Easier to keep working with friends during this pandemic. Thanks for giving me love, smiles, and absolute pleasure. If you'd have waited like 4 minutes more, you would have had a hell of a hide and seek game. Thank you. That's really amused me. That. Dear, dear. Yeah, Christ, I'm barreling towards the future. Feeling very protective of GMT. What is this bollocks? The adorable bugs everyone. It's a raison d'etre. Are you committing Zodiac fraud? Hell, my life is a fucking British mystery novel, so I wouldn't worry about it. Oh, how? You know what I meant. Come, come, come. So yes, Zodiac fraud, Dal. Is this what's going on? No, I don't blame you. Hell, if anybody knew who I really was, I'd be furious. Fortunately, I am an exquisite liar. I can die now. I've done. Oh, holy hell! I've done that right there, so I can go now. I have fulfilled my function. Yes. Charlatan, con man, fraud, fake. Yeah. But I do make an astonishingly good curry. Hell, I can write a British mystery if I want to. I've always wanted to like smash together the genres of the golden age of crime, you know, like Agatha Christie, Poirot, Miss Marple, or whatever, and smash it into the 50s style of science fiction, the Ray Gun Gothic. Mix those two genres together and see what we get. Oh, Q, that is astonishingly kind. Thank you. At some point, I'm going to learn how to do this and what to do with it. But it is not this day. Had a bit of a complicated week, and my brain's not quite in it. That sounds like an excellent shout. Was I recommended? No, I've missed some context here. But it will have to wait because, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, all, we have come to the end of this evening's broadcast. If you feel the need to sing a hymn or your respective national anthems, please do so within the privacy of your own skulls. But we will say we will come back to this another time. But it is 4 a.m. and I am, well, at the risk of being vulgar, I'm gagging for a smoke and a pee. So I will say good night to you all, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, all chaotic ink goblins and gruesome little people. It is the time to say farewell, and it is just a shame. Such a damn shame that the sign-off is better than the show. Good evening.